Always live lovely.
You are now listening to Breaking Barriers, a mental health discussion. I'm your host, Chetina Guadalupe. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, consultant, speaker, and singer. Breaking Barriers, a mental health discussion was created to provide examples of conversations with various people on stigmatizing topics, to break barriers so that you can be encouraged to go within your own community and have these same conversations. Each episode is timeless. There's always something that you can receive from it over and over again. We push the bar a little bit with the topics we talk about. That's why it's called Breaking Barriers. We speak about things that people typically aren't creating space for so that we can all receive healing. Share with everyone you know because of this. There's something that everyone can benefit from in each episode. If you like what you hear and would like to support Always Live Lovely, please donate. This helps us to be able to continue to provide free information on multiple platforms. I will leave the link below. We appreciate any support you're able to provide to keep this thing going. If you would like to stay connected with all things Always Live Lovely, you can visit us at www.alwayslivelovely.com. We provide individual mental health, therapy services, consultations, products, music, information on upcoming events, and so much more. Don't miss out. And of course, if you like my vibe and you would like me to speak on your platform or at your next mental health event, connect with me at connect@alwayslivelovely.com. Enjoy the episode and remember, always live lovely.
Always living lovely. Just don't let the times go by. Do something. You don't gotta go outside yourself to prove nothing. You can lean on me if you need a hand. You can lean on me if you need a friend. You know that I got you. You know that we got you. Yeah.
Hello, lovely people. Welcome to another episode of Breaking Barriers, a mental health discussion. I am your host, Chetina Guadalupe. I am the creator and owner of Always Live Lovely, and this wonderful podcast is one of the many things that I've created in order to help you live a lovely life. I am so excited with this episode. By the time this comes out, it's probably going to be our last episode, and I saved it because it's a very special episode, and I'm so excited to have Andrea here to talk about the topic we are going to be discussing. I will share with y'all what it will be, but I first want y'all to hear a little bit of who Andrea is and have her introduce herself.
Hi, everybody. So I'm Andrea Weaver. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm a DEI educator. I've been in tech for over a decade. I'm also a full spectrum doula. And I'm always advocating for people. So that's like my spiel all the time is my no matter how far I try to stray away from the work that's impactful, it always finds me. And so even working in corporate spaces, working in tech, working with people and their families, trying to have babies, staying pregnant, having, birthing babies and postpartum, it's all about the power of choice. And I think when we are in these spaces and we take the power of choice away from folks, whether it's intentionally or unconsciously, that's where we see the most oppression. And so I am like a dog with a bone when it comes to that. So I really do live that and try to, I'm not above reproach either, right? I say that with a whole look at even myself, Andrea, living in this Black ass body my whole life, right? Like having to make sure I'm navigating those spaces. So no matter where I'm at, the relationships that I've built, the folks that I've met, they will tell you that this does not change. My voice does not change. Like this is me consistently. And it may differ because of like personal relationships, but who I am is who I am. And I'm very unapologetically Black.
Yes.
And that's not gonna change. So that's me. That's a little bit about me.
She said what she said. So
because who's gonna check me, boo?
Who? Right, who
Whomst on you. Yeah.
All right. I love that. You are authentically in your skin. And I definitely really value authenticity because I know the world will definitely try to make and shape us into being things or put us in learning we have to be a certain way. Then we got to unlearn that. So the fact that you've been able to find a way to authentically be yourself in all areas is important. And I really want to point out the fact that, there's so many things that you do, but your common goal stays the same. And it's like a good example of like, you can be an advocate for people in a lot of different roles, and the world doesn't have to make you feel like you have to stay in one role and make it clear to people in order to be able to just live out your dreams and do what it is that you were called and born to do. So I think that's just an example in itself, being authentic.
Thank you.
And making it do what it do and all the things.
I'm working on that. I receive that. Thank you so much.
Receive it. Let it settle in. Let it feel good. You deserve all the compliments. So thank you so much for letting people know a little bit just about you, because it's a beautiful opening door to what our topic is going to be, just in regards to talking about advocating for people, talking about being a Black person, talking about just honoring people and where they are and showing up for them, and just talking about living in authenticity. So on today's episode, we are going to be talking about raising an LGBTQ plus child. And I'm super excited for this episode. It's not an episode that I take lightly. There's so many different things that I'm still learning in different ways that I have to be pushed, but I definitely am a person that, even with the work that I do as a therapist, in my private practice, because my private practice is still new. So I'm still trying to gather the
come on, Black women owned business. Let's do it.
Period. I'm definitely trying to bring in the clients, but I know even in the work that I did when I was at a university, I loved just helping everybody. And
I remember you saying that when we were talking. Yes. That was your pride and joy. Just, it wasn't being where you were, it was the people you were working with. And I really love that. Yeah.
Yes. And honestly, I don't even know if I should be saying this on record, but some of my most favorites, and I know the school be telling you should never have a favorite client. I don't care. Some of my most favorite clients were people that were a part of the LGBTQ plus community. And I loved just literally being in that space with them, making it a safe space, a lot of the work that was there was literally family work. And it was about being disowned, being kicked out, trying to figure out how to live authentically, trying to figure out how to have the balance of becoming a young adult and shedding some of the childhood ways, them still trying to work out their identity and how they wanted to be able to just show up in the world. And when I would help get them to the other side, baby, there was no stopping. So I am just I am here for it. And I'm hoping that even for myself, that I'm able to grow and learn more in ways that I can just show up and continue to be the healer for everybody that I love to be. So in just thinking about that, I would like to know, because a lot of the times when it comes to this conversation, even just in where we are today, it's always important to look back. And so I am curious, because I don't know if how you view the LGBTQ plus community, if it was different, how you grew up in your household and what it became now. But I would like to know a little bit about what views did you grow up around? What was going on there? What was you hearing?
I had a really interesting upbringing, because my dad is from Waco, Texas. He grew up there on a farm during segregation. Grew up in the church in that setting, right? We talking about Bible Belt. Waco, Texas is not Houston. It is damn near a sundown town, right? Or especially back then. So moving here to California, my mother's family is from Shreveport, Louisiana. Same kind of concept, right? Where not having access to care and all this other type of stuff, and then migrating to California. And my parents had been married before and had kids before me and my brother came along. So when I was born, my sisters were 14 and 12 years older than me, or 12, somewhere.
Okay. Kind of like me. I have a 19 and 14-year gap between me and my sister. They're both way older than I am.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. Cool like that.
So, but I think it was really important, even and I say this in kind, as much as my parents, believe they had their strong Christian beliefs, they also believed in their kids having their own mind. And gay people are not new,
right?
That's not I can tell you like several, my mom's sister, and then my dad's brother were both very gay people, or, you know, and what spectrum of gay, I couldn't necessarily say because we were kids, but it was really clear. And it was other people in our family that didn't want to be involved or keep that away from us, or they were hiding their lives. And even being here in the Bay Area, or living in the Bay Area, being in Oakland, my mom's family, she grew up in San Francisco. So having that lens, it was never strange to me. It was always just a part of the things. And I don't think my parents never said anything different. For them, for us, they wanted us to understand that. My dad used to say this all the time, like, if you don't know your name when you leave my house, you don't need to go. Yeah. And really what he's saying is, if you're going to answer to whatever else somebody calls you, then you're not going to be no good to yourself or nobody else. So come yourself on back home where somebody can remind you of who you are.
Yeah, I love that.
Instead of going out and looking for somebody to call you by name, right? And so I think for us, and then those close relationships, having some of that still religious type stuff come up is where the hiding came in, right? And although my parents never shunned anyone, you felt it when other people were around, that they were holding space for these people to be themselves. A lot of the times, like, you wasn't about to come to my house and check my mom and dad about nothing. Nobody would ever do that. My house, my parents' house, was the house you came to get a good meal or get a good word or get some reprieve or just come and hang out. Like, my house was not that. You're not bringing no drama here. And so when people came, that was the expectation. So to me, that was my expectation. That's how I grew up. As far as like my connection, or how I not identified with, but how that was allowed. And then even me being the oldest, but also the middle child, I was allowed to do a lot of gender fluid things, like play with boys.
Yeah.
And my dad was still my dad, so he didn't want me to wear dresses all the time, of course. But you know, I learned how to sew, and I love to go fishing with my dad. I love to go do all the hunting and stuff with my dad. Like, he taught me how to shoot a gun when I was young. He taught me how to, you know, drive a car when I was 12, because we would go on these trips, like, to do fishing, like in the, like, what they call whiskey slough. And so he was like, if anything happens, I want you to be able to get out of here. These survivor skills. But my dad also did our hair. So it's like 4 girls. So he knew how to do our hair. He at least knew how to braid our hair. My mom did our hair, but my dad could, you know,
he was like, I'm in there.
Do a little,
I'm figuring it out.
Get a little hot comb, get a little edges together and put it in a ponytail, you know. And he would cook. Right. And then my mom, they worked different shifts. So my mom worked during the day, my dad worked at night. So my dad was at home all the time. And you didn't hear them talking about gender roles. Now, were some of those roles played out? Yes. Yeah. Because that is that generation. Right. But a lot of other things, they tried to combat against it. Like even talking about sex and talking about death at a young age, that never surprised me. I still don't have an issue with that. I've never had even an issue with my own sexuality. Like, I knew from conversations with my mom where I could explore and be confident in that. And so sex and that intimacy with others was never taboo for us, because their parents were like on some you kiss, you get pregnant type stuff. Yeah. And they wanted us to be different. And so I think, although it seems separate, it is the same. It's kind of like all in the same compass, because when we're talking about sexuality, how I view my sexuality affects how I view other people's sexuality.
Absolutely.
As well.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
So that positivity and that ownership of myself, like, I never felt like I was giving myself away in my sexual experiences, even as a young person. You know, I felt like it was always my choice. Right. And to think that and to relay that to the people around me, like a lot of friends that I had in school, most of my friends, even now, are queer, are on this queer spectrum somewhere. And a lot of those friends that I had came out to me later, and it was like, duh, I already knew that. Like, that, but to them, that they had to go through that struggle. Right. Yeah. And so I even had to stop and be careful about that. Saying like, oh, I already knew. Like, nah, you guessed, you didn't know. This person
and honoring their experience,
and honoring that space, and them still feeling comfortable to be my friend, because I never made them feel like they couldn't be themselves. They just weren't ready.
Mm-hmm.
And so for us to still be friends is really a testament to me and how I was raised in that spectrum there. That is a descriptor. That is not how someone is to you. That doesn't affect my relationship with you.
It's not the whole person.
Nah.
Being othered.
It's super
like,
small.
This is just a piece of who you are.
And it's not even a principle thing. Right? Even if we talk about the Bible and what's gay and what's not, that wasn't introduced until the 60s. I'm sorry, y'all. You're gonna have to come to terms with that. That's not a real thing. You know what I'm saying?
Said, look, I'm here and I'm being honest.
It is what it is. So don't use Christianity as a means. You can't, you can't use Christianity as an excuse and then say Jesus saves. You can't do that. Right?
Thank you.
So you gotta make up your mind. Now, I'm a preacher's kid, so you can't play that game with me. Like, I'm church kid out. My son's dad is a preacher's kid. Like,
oh really?
We churched out. Okay. Like, now that I'm older, my relationship, for me, church has always been community. It was never about the religious do this, do that, do this, because as preacher's kids, we know early on, you ain't going to hell for doing shit. Yeah. So we're gonna do all the shit. You know what I mean? And so that wasn't my experience. Thankfully it wasn't my experience. And so that's a little bit about that.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like they gave you a very well-rounded foundation in your home, and it shines through now just of who you are as a person.
And therapy, and I think because they were humans.
Yeah, right. So they wasn't like
but they were humans. But they did that
different, right? From like the typical stories that I hear, and even like, things that I maybe grew up around of just like, in the Black community, it could be, it's very much so still to this day, a stigma of anything related to being gay or
Girl, wait till we get more into the story about being a parent.
It's
atrocious.
Yeah. So I'm interested to just, hear more. And even in just hearing about like your well-roundedness, share a little bit just about, your son. And who he is, pronouns, and just how that story begins to blossom and take shape.
So my son, it will be 16 in April.
Okay.
My only one. Okay. He goes by they. I think he goes by he, they, but mostly he, him. He's actually okay with he, him. I've also inquired, like, do you like want to be called? Like, and he's like, no. But he's also dresses very He dresses very gender fluid, more feminine presenting, tall, legs for days, brown skin, dimples, just like
beauty.
Okay. Listen, our biggest fights is not he can't wear stuff. Stay out my closet. Because I bought you clothes. So
you're doing too much. You're going back over there and getting your own stuff.
Right. He is he never really came out to me.
Okay.
I don't know. We just talked about stuff all the time. We just talked. Like, it wasn't
a thing. Like, it wasn't I have to come out. I have to really overly think this.
Yeah, I just, I didn't feel the need to define anything for him. Right. Because he was still my kid. And even when he was younger, before he was confirmed with his own identity, or even start to question his own identity. I was always telling him, like, I'm raising a decent human being. That's it. Yeah. Everything else is secondary to that. Like, you can have the best grades, you can go get all the degrees, but if you're a terrible person, you're a terrible person. There's just full stop. I've worked with those terrible people that have all these accolades that have catapulted them into these positions, but it doesn't mean that they have earned the right to be there. And so for me, I took with me from my parents that idea that we got to talk about stuff.
Yeah.
Even when it's hard, because I don't want you to go doing something and you scared, and then I got a Black boy. So I also have to have that conversation. Like, police pull you over. Like, we've had literal instances at the school where police were talking to him and he was like, I'm not talking to you. Right. Like, that's crazy to say, but like, that is it. And so the coming out, his dad called me and told me he came out to him, but the way my son came out to his dad was because he was mad at his dad. He didn't say it in kind. Like he wasn't, I don't think
like
ever in fear of coming out. It was just more of like, you know, I don't know if we can cuss on here, but
be
you know, to fuck you, to, you know, whatever, however he was feeling in that moment. And I think that is a testament, that is a reflection of me. I will say that. And his stepmom, not his dad's ex-wife, who is also my son's stepmom, shout out to Mackie, I love her so much. We talk a lot about who Rodney has always been. We were never confused about his sexuality. Not once. Like, yeah, pretty much. Like, we get it. But that never bothered me. It never stopped me from being his mom. And he was always so kind and sweet, and just like this mouth, he definitely got that from me. Just the like personality, the big personality, the flair for drama, like that type of stuff is just my son. And he's honey, my son is an Aries sun, Aries moon, and a Leo rising. Okay. You want to just keep me in prayer. That's all I ask y'all to do. Keep me in prayer. But super fun, and in some aspects of his life had to mature a little too much to protect himself.
Yeah.
But now that he's with me full time, I'm seeing some of that stuff fall off, and he's just being a teenager, really.
Yeah.
And experiencing, you know, to go from knowing who you are, people not knowing who you are, right? Because we all knew, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not, you know, and then to be made to feel as though that old school, that's cute, keep that shit over there.
Yeah.
Like, if you can go to my Instagram and see how my son dresses. He was being dressed like a D-Boy's baby doll. Like, that's not him.
He is everything. There's a clip, y'all, that's on her page right now. I couldn't hear it because I had to like read the little titles, and I was like, now is she talking to him or is he talking to her? Because I just need to know who was doing too much with the way they was dressing, and things was all like this. But I was like, it sounds like, because my son was napping, so I was like, I can't have it too loud. It's not like he was telling you maybe you was doing too much.
Yes, he told me I was doing too much. He said, excuse me. And I was like, oh, I posted something on Instagram, like some little cute little thirst trap or something. And he was like, he said, oh my God, in my messages. And I was like, LMAO, what? And he goes, that song is extremely vulgar and you are inappropriate.
Putting you in check.
You are inappropriate.
Like, what did you think this was?
And then when he got home, he was like, see, you think you grown, you on the internet doing too much. I said, Rodney, I am so grown. And he's like, you are not grown. As a matter of fact, go to your room.
Right. The expression on his face was like, I don't know who she thinks she is, but I need to
literally.
I ain't even about to look at her right now.
That is him all day. That's him. Girl, the shade, the sass, just really, and just naturally who he is too. And but to have to, let's see, what am I trying to say? We want to know more about Rodney. So I co-parented for a really long time, and then that no longer worked. And so now he's with me full time. And he's just allowed to live out loud. I really
authentically carrying that torch on, living authentically.
And sometimes that autonomy bites me in my ass, because I still have the mind of just do what I say, you know, because that's still in me for real. Like, do what I say. But there are
sometimes it's helpful. Survival.
Yeah. And I can't have him scared. I gotta let him go do stuff and make mistakes and make decisions, and that's for any parent, truly. The rules are the same. Your body, your rules, their body, their rules. That has never changed in my house, right? So it doesn't really matter about who he's dating. Like, the things that come up with him being a gay Black boy, especially feminine presenting, it's safety. That's what comes up. That's it. And it's just more of the same shit we always talk about. But now when people see there's a level of violence with femininity, right? And so really having those conversations and clocking certain things, like, he's had to ask me to calm down in my reactions to people reacting to him. It's like, this is I get it. This is what people do. People are just curious, and it doesn't really bother me that much. And I'm like, it's a difference between being curious and being rude. And
disrespectful
rude to you around me. Like, no. Asking him, is he cold? Because listen, my son ain't never seen a crop top he don't like.
Uh-huh.
Listen, rain, sleet, or snow, he has got a crop top on.
It's gonna be crop topping.
Hello? It's crop top season all season long. And I remember us being somewhere and this woman asked him that. It was like summertime in LA at like 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
I was like, no, are you?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and that was the first time he just had to let me know, like, I know what I look like.
Mm-hmm.
And I know how people expect me to look. And you gotta, like, you can't ruin moments like that. Cause I'm that way. I'm
you want to
very
protect
no
them.
nonsense.
Your mama bear.
Yeah, very no nonsense. And but I have to respect that because he does have to go out into the world without me.
Mm-hmm.
So keeping your child sheltered won't protect them either.
Yeah.
So yeah, and he's just fun to be around. He's super, he loves kids. And I'm talking about like so good with kids. So good with kids. And I think that's his true calling. He thinks he's going to do some other stuff, but I think he's going to end up doing stuff with kids. Like that's
right. You're like,
truly, like, I just see that, like, see him
blossoming.
doing something that he loves, but it's involving kids. And I'm just excited to see, you know, what the world has in store. Like, I have great community around me. One of my exes that we were together for a really long time loves my son still to this day. And so super supportive. My best friend, Clarice, as you well know, my dad, my mom, my sisters, like my friend Marvin, my people down here in LA, my partner, Bryce, like just, it's not forced.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like, well, Rodney's gay, so let's be weird. Like, it's like,
yeah. It's
okay.
just Rodney is Rodney.
Hi,
so
Rodney.
Let Rodney be
like,
Rodney.
You know, that's really it. And like the struggle is him being a teenager, not him being gay.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's really big and
now
huge.
That
and
unsubscribe.
Yeah. And it's important because, like I said, like, you know, a little earlier, the stigma in the Black community and communities in general, the hyper focus doesn't come on, oh, okay, he's just a teenager. No, it stays on, but he's gay and he's female presenting, and that's weird, and that's an issue. Or you can be that outside this door, but you can't bring that in here. And like, just
what
all
kind
the
of life is that to live?
Yeah, it's listen, as a therapist, I've heard some things, and it's always very heartbreaking. But I also am on the side also of like, if the parents are growing up and hearing those things, I am very much certain parents grow up with their own fears as well. And then so if you've grown up being told, like, luckily in your household it seemed like it was okay to just be who you are, but I know that there are lots of households where it's like you can't be any of that, or your cousin or your friend, or this could be, but not my child. And then so if you grow up, you develop these fears of like, well, what if I was, or what if I did want to explore, or what if I did want to do this, but you're so scared. And then you go and have kids and you're trying to figure out, well, I don't want to necessarily do that. I want to be able to have a space that's more open and authentic and not operate out of fear. And I think it's really important of what you were saying about like just that topic of fear. You brought up two things, and one thing first I'm gonna focus on is just the topic of fears, and not operating out of, even with you being a person that has more acceptance of everything, there are still fears that you have. Just
I'm terrified every day he goes to school,
because you know people. So
yeah, that's what I tell him. I'm like, I trust you. I don't trust other people. Like, I truly trust my son to do what's right, or at least call me when it's not right. Right?
Because you know who you're raising. You know who you're. The scary part is the other people, and it makes me think, like, what do you think has been the most helpful for you to be able to center your child's safety and care versus operating out of fear, and in being able to, like, you know, put those fears on him or different things? Because you're just saying he'd be like, I'm not, you're doing a little too much. I understand what's happening here. Let's let it ride.
I don't know that he identifies with me being mama bear as me being fearful.
Okay.
I think he identifies it as this, me being protective, really. But I'm not protective. I'm not overbearing at all. Like, I'm not a helicopter mom. I don't believe in that. I think a lot of times it's interesting that you talked about fear, because I was just talking to somebody about this. It's very common for our age group to shelter our children. And I don't know what that's about, really, but like, you have to consciously be aware. It's kind of like, you know, dating. you get to know this person. The thing about kids, though, they change at these different intervals.
Right.
And we have to change as parents. The fear part that's a part of it, right? There's always going to be fear. As Black folks, fear has been instilled in us.
Exactly.
Right? To just exist. We're not even talking about leaving our homes. We're just talking about existing, right? Going to school, reading a book, going to the park, walking your dog. Your existence is political, right? I do not want him to wake up one day and feel like, damn, I didn't do anything with my life and I didn't live, 5 exits from my mom's house.
Yeah.
Like that is pitiful. Not because you weren't able, you're completely able-bodied. We know differently able folks that travel the world. So that's not even an excuse, right? But we see that in these inappropriate relationships that folks have with their children. And when I say inappropriate, I don't mean like pedophilia. I really mean like this imbalance of like being a parent and being a child. And as your child grows, your relationship also has to grow.
Has to grow with it.
You cannot treat a teenager like you do a 5-year-old.
Even your adult child. You have to grow with your adult child. They're no longer 5, like you're saying anymore.
Now you can have structure and boundaries around what you will and won't tolerate, right? But that doesn't mean that the fear is going to go away. Right? There was a school shooting threat at my son's school last year. And girl, I literally got to the school so fast, the police hadn't even come yet.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
I don't blame you.
The gate, right? And they stopped me and I'm like losing my mind.
Yeah.
Right? Sitting in front of the school, there's nobody there. It's just me. No one he called me from inside the school. And I'm like, so their dance room is in the basement. So he couldn't really get service. But if he got service, they would have to open the door. So he had called me from another phone and like put that in perspective and what we know about these school shootings. That's fear.
Yeah.
Him going to school and making it is a concern. That's it. Like, that's the difference. And I think when we put stuff in perspective, not to compare those situations or compare someone's trauma, but I think it's more important to recognize that a lot of the stuff, like I tell my clients that have kids, pregnancy only brings up what's already there. It exacerbates it.
It does.
So if you're not dealing with your shit, it's going to come up. I do that my damn self. I do that. And I have to check myself. Like sometimes I'm being too hard on him. Sometimes I'm a little bit irritable. And I'll be like, hey, I don't want to talk right now. I'm in a mood, and I can do that because he's not 5. Yeah. I don't have to pretend. I also don't pretend with him. Now I don't share all my grown folks' business, but and we're partners in his growth now that he's this age. Like I don't check up on him at school. He's late to class. Okay. Did you get the grades? Like, what is late to me? What is late? Right? If you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, you ain't causing no trouble. You doing what you're supposed to be doing. What is being late to class? Right? I'm kicking my heels because I'm not about to be falling up behind no grown man ever. Including my own. So how do I get him to be a self-sustaining person? It's by giving him these small things over time that stack on top of each other. A lot of times we look at parenting like, oh, boom, they grow up. It's like, nah, I was letting him go to the store by himself when he was in middle school, 7th grade or 6th grade. He was terrified. He had never done that before. And I was like, you'll be all right. Go ahead. Now, did I have the tracking on his phone? Did I call 3-4 times? You got yes. Because I needed to feel comfortable, right? When he first started walking to school, I was terrified because I would have to go to work. So I wasn't home. The school wasn't too far from the house. But the fact that 6 blocks was unparented scared the hell out of me. But
you still allowed him to do what needed to be done.
Yeah, the first time he went, girl, I would just park around the corner and make sure he made it to school. I'd just be terrified, right? But my fears,
you're not letting it get in the way.
Yeah, and it's not even getting in the way. Sometimes we we continue to send these signals of fear to our kids, and they
Yeah.
never branch out. They're afraid to take
Yeah.
risks. They're afraid to fuck up. I tell
Yeah.
my son that all the time. So just go fuck up. Go make some mistakes, because you're never gonna have this body you got now ever again. You're never gonna have the freedom that you have
Right. You
ever
may not want to
again.
be crop topping all year.
Right.
When
You
you're
know,
about
I mean, you might, but
you
it ain't
might
gonna look
still just
like
be
that.
like, but you might pull pants. Who
Right.
knows?
You know, you're never gonna be this height again. You never, just like you're never gonna have this experience in high school again. So go fuck up. Within reason. Please don't get arrested, because I don't have
Right.
it. But but like it's that stuff. And I just wasn't a square at all growing up. And I say square in kind way. Like, I'm super extroverted and I love being around people, and like I lived a different life than Rodney did. He has a life of privilege, and that's what I want for him. But his life of privilege can't also cripple him.
Right.
And that's the balance. Each kid is different. Each kid's going to need something different. I don't care if you're raising 3 kids in the same house. Every kid's going to need something different from you. And each stage in their lives, they're going to need something different from you. So as parents, we have to be able to evolve over time. And a lot of times it's not that our kids are gay or not. It's that they're growing without us. What
Yeah.
teenager listens to their parents? None. So you thought telling them they shouldn't be gay was going to change? No.
Right.
Listen, I can barely get him to do dishes regularly. Okay. Please.
Yeah. And I think it's very beautifully said how you differentiated between concerns and fears. Because I do feel like a lot of us do live just out of the space of fear, or don't know the difference of what is a concern and what is a fear. And I think that is an important question for people that are also raising children, any kind of child, but specifically for this conversation, that are raising children in the LGBTQ plus community, to ask yourself and examine yourself, like, what's fears and what's true concerns. And definitely, like, I vibe with what you're saying about like having children opens a whole new door of just a room full of mirrors. Like, you turn it into a complete circle and it's just a mirror all around, because like,
and they gonna test you.
Right, absolutely. And people will think that, okay, like, I'm ready to have kids and I've got myself in order, but it's like, no, everything that maybe you didn't even know was there is going to come up, because you're raising a whole different human, and you really have decisions to make about what are you going to do if you want to be a person that maybe does something differently than how you were raised, or if you're trying to just figure it out, period, of what you're supposed to be doing with this little human as they're getting older. And I did hear you say, like, you have named some of the challenges that you have, but I don't know if there's a challenge that you feel like has stood out the most with you in this journey. With him, it seems like I don't know if it's more of a personal thing or if it's just more of something that's more external in the people around, but do you have one that has been like a very big hurdle for you? And is there something that you did to help overcome that?
Yeah, I think when we transitioned to him living with me full time, or right before, I'll say maybe like 2 years ago, I was pretty clear that he was gay. Me personally, as his mom, just some of the conversations we were having. And I think I'll use that as a starting point, because I think that's when someone is sure of themselves, people that aren't can't handle it.
Yeah.
Right. I don't care who they are. Some people, oh, you grew, you changed or whatever, right? We see that a lot in adults. These childhood friendships, we outgrow. But really, like, folks are just evolving in the ways that they are. So it's not malicious. But when you take a child's growth and allow it to settle in you as some slight against you, and then you add the issues with homophobia in Black families, the things that are overlooked, the silencing that happens with certain types of unsavory behavior, become centered. That's where that child is centered, right? They become the not the protagonist, but they become the center, they become the issue, right? And I think the biggest hurdle for us was, you can have your experience, right, as this young person. You can also have had this other experience that may not have been great. and something in between. And then you still get to live your life. The hardest hurdle was coming here with me full time. And my life is not structured or centering you or no drama. It's quiet here. And with quiet with a lot of noise. And I don't mean literal loudness. I mean a lot of noise, a lot of moving around. And then to have to settle makes people feel like they're on fire. Right. And so I think for both of us, it was a huge transition because I had started evolving myself. Like, I think somewhere inside my brain, I started to stop trying to parent at my house and that house. And just parent when he was here and do what I could in between time, but not overexert myself, because I deserve that. I deserve to have then, you know, that and then some. And so does he. And I think the biggest hurdle was just like, we got to find a way to calm these nerves, because I can be really an anxious person, but not in the way that like I'm having panic attacks. Like I get super hyper focused on work and I don't see anything else. Right. But when you have somebody around, especially, it's like a cracked tooth, it's on fire. So anything you do will set it off. It could be a laugh, it could be breathing in or out, depending on where it's chipped. Right. And so when you're in that space, you got to be thoughtful. You got to be gentle. You got to be intentional. You got to move a certain kind of way. And so for me and him, getting used to this new space that we get to create together without any extra distractions ever again was really, really new. And it wasn't easy. You would think it would be like, oh yeah, this was great, because we had a lot of great moments. But as a mom, I knew that we had a lot of work to do. And there were some things that I had to admit that I couldn't help him with. You know, and that doesn't make me a bad parent. Like, I remember sitting down talking to him, I was just like, you know, there are certain parts in your life that I will never understand. As much as I am empathetic of or want to ride for you for, some of these things you're gonna have to work out for you.
And being okay with that, and you sitting in that, letting that be your own work.
Exactly, right. And I think that is a hurdle I've never had, where I felt like I needed to be everything and anything to him. No, because I can't be anything and everything to my damn self. So I know I can't be that for him. But I know where to put you. I know where to position you. I know who to put you in contact with. I know, you know, if I don't know, I know who does. Right. And I think that's what saved us in that spot, because it really had nothing to do with me. I had to unpack and be present for the unpacking of a lot of things that just I wasn't privy to. And really making sure, one, and also like, I had to deal with my own feelings. Like, I was really hurt by a lot of the things that had happened. And, you know, I'm also working and growing my business, and, you know, I'm doing all these other things. And, you know, to go from co-parenting to a full-time mom, but, you know, my son is this age, and then now he's at a new school and he's in a new city, and just all these things. Like, I had to, it was some days I just was feeling so overwhelmed, just literally, like, I just was like, I'm not doing anything right. Right? Like, I'm a bad mom. And I've went through that bout a lot when he was younger, just feeling like I was a bad mom because I was working all the time, or I couldn't, you know, be anything and everything all the time, all at once. And coming to terms with that years ago in this space, I just knew I needed to give myself some grace, because I wanted to get everything in like a split second. But
and it's not possible.
Right. But you talking about transitions, like, we went from like day to night in like our relationship and our living situation and our parenting, like it was like that. We didn't have time to adjust. You talking about literal changes within a day. So I had to adjust. And as much as he is a kid, that stuff for me, those kind of changes, even conversations like, you know what, you really hurt my feelings. You're just been really mean. That was hard for me to say to my kid, but like, you're really hurting my feelings. And it's just really hard for me to talk to you, because XYZ, and this is who I am. Like, I'm not like that. Like, why are you treating me like that? But kids move the way that they need to.
Yeah.
They don't necessarily put their
And they're
feelings in
honest.
the right place. Right. You have to unpack that shit. So until it's unpacked, I got to deal with this chipped tooth the whole time until we get it, fixed, or at least put some cover on it so it looks normal,
Right.
Or at least it feels normal. It may not look normal, but at least it feels normal. And I would say that transition was eye-opening for me. I think it was eye-opening for him. And it's not as hot in my house. For sure. It's not as hot. It's not as volatile. We have our moments, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, no house is perfect.
But nowhere near how it was. And me even coming to terms with, like, it's not about you.
Yeah. And see, that's a big thing, that the whole conversation of it's not about you, because I know that one thing that you had mentioned was early on was like, he came out technically to his father and it was like a big F you. And I know that one thing that is very much a barrier within the Black community is that father-son relationship. And especially if a father has one son, the only son, and the only son ends up being gay, and how that just rocks that father's whole world. And so I don't know if you want to speak to that a little bit, because even in those moments, it is a perspective of it's not about you. But when I tell you, it's nothing new under the sun. And I've heard the story time and time again of the whole concern around that. And it's like, well, my son, my only son, or my only grandson, or my only this, they can't be gay. Like, no, like, this is not something that I want to be able to accept. I mean, the mom's experience is usually a different kind of thing too, and has its own things as well. But just that attachment to the idea of who your child's supposed to be. And of course, this gives a whole different, that's probably a whole different podcast, but just the idea of having a child, your hopes and dreams of who they're supposed to be, plus adding in the actual fears that you have because of maybe views and points of views of how you grown up, and not wanting to experience anything different, or wanting to protect your child from the whole world and what they're going to be doing and what's going to be happening with them. And then it's kind of like, when you have a child that comes out in any way, shape, or form, it causes you to have to take a step back and figure out, so how are you going to act? What life are you now going to create now for you and your family household? Because things may not look how you thought and drawn it out to be of how you were going to have this child, but then people forget their child is their own person. And a lot of things aren't about you, and you have to let them be who they're going to be. And you make the decision of love them anyhow or not. Like, how are you really going to rock with this? Because a lot of people that I've talked to, the whole thing they're sitting with is my parents still going to love me? How are they going to react? Am I still going to have a roof over my head? Like, will I still be able to be myself? Like,
are they going to kill me? Literally.
Right, exactly. Literally, the violence is real, the trauma is real, and I don't even know. I've been trying to spoil nothing, but I don't care. Spoiler alert, bloop bloop. But have you watched the Best Man's Holiday TV show?
I haven't watched it yet.
Do you want to watch it? I'm
like, I did see the scene though, where one of the kids is like identifying as they, them, or something like that.
Right. So I'll just say ambiguously, that show has very great hints of a very textbook reaction of a father and their child coming out, and what that looks like. And luckily there's a healthy spin on it of what it could become, and the life you choose to create with your child. And so I wonder if there's anything that you could say or speak to the parents that are like, oh, this is a phase for my child, or not my only son, or they're really just holding on to, this is not what I envisioned when it came to having a child, because now this child is a reflection of me. What does that then mean about me? Or how am I going to make sure that the world, if they already are a Black boy or even a Black girl or whatever the case, they black on black.
Yeah.
Like, now I got to sit here and worry about all this other stuff and What can you say to speak to just those people so that they can center more of acceptance?
I think the first thing is to recognize that your children are not extensions of you.
Ooh. Say that again.
Your children are not extensions of you. Sorry. They're not. They're their own people. They start to become their own people right around 2.
Listen, my son already think he is his own person. I don't even know where this came from. He only 9 months, and it started at 8.
And they break your heart. Your kids break your heart, right? Even if they don't mean to. These, I remember Rodney in 3rd grade. You don't have to walk me to class, and I was like, "What do you mean I gotta walk?" I walked him to class. He was so mad because none of the other kids was getting walked to class. He felt like he was a big boy, right? And then leaving, I was like, I can't take him anymore. And it broke my heart because that was our thing, right? But it's not about me.
Yeah.
It's not. Like, I wish, sometimes I look at him and him and my brother have their a day apart birth date, not birth year, but birth date. And he reminds me so much of him. That funness, that bubbly personality. Me and my brother we're damn near Irish twins. So, I see so much in him. So, add that with being a mom. And, I also raised kids before I had Rodney. So I had quite a bit of practice prior. And what you find is when you stop trying to here's why I said what I said. A lot of us try to make our kids the versions of ourselves we couldn't achieve. And that's the problem. It's not that you want the best for your kid and this is your extension. No, the extension is you think that you can do, if I would have done this, it would have just been this way. So if I can get them to do that, then it's going to be like that. And I'm here to tell you it's not. I know so many people that have gone to law school or medical school and quit because their parents forced them, they got there and realized they hated it.
You're right.
Never do it again. But now they're like, a house mortgage in debt over something that they never even wanted to do. Right. And so that's the first part. And then, I'm not a Black man. I can't speak to that experience. I can speak to my experience with my son and his father. And I can say, I will speak as politically correct as I possibly can. And the only reason is because I'm premising this because I'm going to be very candid, but I also want to make sure that one, I'm being clear about what I'm saying, but also this isn't a bashing my baby daddy thing, right? My son is 16 years old. We done all moved on with our lives. It's not that kind of party. I think when we talk about the word acceptance comes up a lot with LGBTQ plus kids. They don't need your acceptance. They need your respect.
I love that.
They don't need your acceptance because you're never going to get it.
I love that.
You're never going to get it. You're not. Right? How do I explain my menstrual cycle to my male partner?
Yeah.
Now he might get it, but you'll never experience it.
Yeah.
You might see a rolled up pad, right?
Right.
But you didn't have to walk around all day and make sure you're not leaking everywhere, right?
Exactly.
That experience will never be yours. It just won't. But you know what you can do? You can respect it though. These kids don't need you to do nothing but support them.
Yeah, I love that.
And when you respect that you may not get it, right? If you just respect that and love them anyway, it goes a long way. And then mourn the life for your kids that you thought they'd have.
Yes.
Because we should be doing that anyway. Let's be real. We all need to do that with our kids. But it's
even with your own adult children.
With your own adult children, right? Mourn whatever life you thought that they was gonna have. That goes for the folks that want their kids to have kids. Oh, I can't wait till y'all give me grandkids and all sorts of type of stuff, right? Meanwhile, you still going to bingo and I got this crying baby at home. You know what I'm saying? And there's nothing wrong with that, but I'm just saying we do a really bad job of letting our kids fly.
Yeah.
We really do. And now you can have structure. I got structure in my house. My son's not allowed to just be doing whatever. I'm not saying that. I have structure, but I'm not strict to the point where he can't see sunlight.
Yeah.
I'm taking his cell phone, but it's for months. That's stupid.
Yeah.
Come on. What are we doing right now? Right. I may say, hey, you can't go out tonight. You got stuff to do here. Because I already set those things in place. We use parenting as a means to oppress our kids, unfortunately. Because
Mm.
that's what we know. It's not
Don't make me have to bring you back for another episode in that new season. Don't be playing with my emotions.
Listen, I've been really reading and seeing a lot of people talk about, like, if your liberation does not include children, your liberation is not liberation. Because we can be oppressors to our own children.
Absolutely.
Right? It's hard to come to terms with, certain types of whoopings that we experience were actually abuse. Right?
Yes.
We just have to come to terms with that.
It was a post that I saw the other day where this lady was calling it out, and she was saying, if you whipped your child, or if you do like that, you abused your child. Like, unfortunately, this was a form of abuse. And now it's just like, lots of things need to be talked about.
Right. Because now, don't get me wrong, I struggle. That's like, but my life dictated that level of violence that I have been capable of exuding. Right. That was my life overall. It wasn't just my home life. It was my life being out and doing what people do. Right. And so there's certain things, even me, that may trigger me in a way where I have to check myself. Like, if someone approaches me in a certain kind of way, I'm going to react in a way that's going to let you know to not approach me. Even more so with, somebody that's taller than me, that got reach on me, that's a boy, like talking about my kid, like I'm gonna react a certain kind of way. Like, and that was our deal when he first got here. I'm like, that might've been your life over there. Don't ever approach me. Because I'm gonna be a different person. Right. And I know that about myself. I'm not saying, like I said, I'm not saying that is right or wrong. I'm saying I know that, so I try not to put myself in
awareness,
so that does not come up. And I've had to do that for myself. That's not my son thing. That's an Andrea thing, right?
Not his job.
But that shit spills over if you're not careful, because kids piss you off.
Yeah, they do. A kid gonna try you. That's what
they're gonna try you, and they break your heart, and they just break your heart by growing up.
Yeah.
Listen,
you ain't got to tell me.
Listen,
you ain't got to tell me that. That's the phase I'm in. I'm crying every day.
Listen, I tell my postpartum parents, like, you have to get to the point where you're just always accepting change.
Yeah.
An anxious mama has an anxious baby, guaranteed.
Oh, don't be doing that now, Jaya, because
you heard what I said.
Not my little anxious self over here. I'll be trying my best. Like, please don't let my baby have anxiety.
Right.
Struggling.
Well, it's like the idea too, like, it's okay to put the baby down, walk away. Right. And I know that's hard, because some of us, like, we feel like we need to do everything all the time. The minute they, what, I need to get it. No.
Yeah.
Let them fuss a little bit. They are okay. They are safe, and so are you. Like, it's fine. They moved in their sleep. So what? So do you. Like, they're not mummies. Right? Like, we get all this stuff, and we add all this flair, and we do, like, that's for us. That's not for them.
Yeah.
None of that shit matters. They don't remember any of that. You know what they remember? Somebody's gonna come to them when they need something. They remember how they felt. They remember these moments. Me and my son have so many moments where we can call back to. Like, there's a video of us doing a cat daddy in H&M when he was like 5 years old. Like, stuff like that. He has memories that he makes these videos for me randomly.
Yeah.
Of our times together. Stuff that I don't remember or lost over time or whatever. And he remembers those moments. It wasn't me giving him stuff. Not that he doesn't like stuff.
He gonna take the stuff.
He gonna take the stuff. My baby has lived a privileged life, honey. A suburb kid all through and through. Okay. He is opposite of his East Oakland hood rat mama. But I think so, like, to wrap all that stuff up, what I'm trying to say, going back to the dad part, I think there's an image issue where, like, I was just saying all those things about myself. I think the same thing about their relationship.
Yeah.
Where there's things that you need to unpack so that you can be a full parent. I think you have to grow with your kids to be a full parent. I think you have to accept a certain shit you just can't control. Full stop. Right? But the control that we have over our kids makes us feel powerful. And when we lose that power, right? Then it's, let me bring you back here. And it's like, nah, you can't do that. You cannot, they are people. And I get the frustration. Again, I got a teenager at home, but I don't use I don't pull my cards every time he don't do something I say. Right? I save those for when stuff actually matters. Right? When I see D's and F's. Now I'm pulling a parent card. Okay, everything's coming to a stop now. Yeah. Because that leads to other things not working out for you. And I can't have that. Right? Now I got to save you from yourself. You know, not taking care of himself or whatever, right? Like even thinking about like what therapy means, like him going to therapy, it has been and is super, super helpful.
I love that.
And that's his free space.
Yeah, kids need free spaces.
They need free spaces, right? Yeah, he can talk to me about a lot of stuff, but I don't expect him to talk to me about everything.
Right.
And so I also think there's a fine line for your kids telling you everything. I think some people use that as a means to control their kids.
Listen, talk about it.
Right? It's a means to control. And when you lose that control, then you start to vie for their attention in other ways that are not sustainable. Like buying them stuff. Right? A parent that can say I apologize or I'm wrong is a parent. When you cannot do that, and like in a real way, not just doing it
when
to
you
gaslight
mean
your kids.
it. Exactly.
But like really
and change behavior after.
And change behavior, right? Well, when you get considerably worse, now it's a game of manipulation between the two of you. Now it's no longer a parent-child relationship. Now you manipulate, I manipulate. Right? And with a strong-willed child, I'm gonna wait you out.
Yeah.
Right? And so I think now if we hone in on him being gay and him being his father's namesake, my son is the third. He is the oldest kid by 5 years, I believe 5 or 6 years. He has one other son. And you know, I'm not going to speculate. I will say that when I got my son full time, I could tell that he just didn't know what to do anymore.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't think he would ever admit that. I don't think it would ever, you know, be the thing. But it wasn't, you know, if I could say anything to anyone in that space, it's nothing for you to do, but just to continue to love your kid.
Yeah, accept them where they are with how they are.
Just respect
Let that be
it.
that.
It might be
Keep
weird
on raising
for you.
them.
It's gonna be weird. I get
and
it.
And go to
it
therapy if you need to. That's fine.
Right.
Too.
It's gonna be weird. Put parameters around it. Like, listen, I know you like to dress like that, but please, like for me, I'm like, as long as your ass ain't out and your titties ain't out, we good. Like that's my thing. Like I like wear whatever you want, but the minute I see ass cheeks or titties, even you know, he got titties, but still, your chest, no,
too much cleavage happening. Tone it down.
Short. Right. Even when he first started wearing crop tops, I was like, too high, belly button. Now I let him wear them a little higher. But you know, like he got his belly button pierced without my permission, and you know, you could treat that however you want to treat it, but I'm gonna treat it like I would treat any kid that did something I told them not to do.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's not. And he's gay. No, you doing shit you ain't got no business doing. And I'm disappointed now because I'm trusting you not to do stuff. I'm telling you to wait. Then go do whatever you want to do. Right. Like, I don't want that responsibility because now your balls then came off the thing and now you need a cleaners. Like, they not thinking about that. Sometimes they think we just saying no just to be saying no. I don't want to deal with that. Now it gets infected. Now I got to use my good insurance. And time to go sit in the ER and go get this thing cut out because you didn't want to take it out because, you know, like that didn't happen. But that's what I think of when, you know, he's asking me, can he do stuff? Right. And you know, I wish that it was easier for him, because my son is not only gay, but presenting feminine. It
Yeah,
made it
because
progressively
that's different. It
hard.
adds a different layer. Yeah.
It made him feel, it seemed to me that he felt like it was an embarrassment to him.
Hmm.
You know, like, not my son, not my
Yeah.
son.
Yeah.
You know, and that's a recipe for disaster, because
Yeah.
you can't, that's not something you can hide in you. You can't, right? You can't
Yeah.
hide that. There's nothing. So, you know, imagine that, and then add the church aspect to it.
Mm-hmm.
Being preachers' kids, right? Like, I'm very much more liberal. My parents like know who I am. They are not confused. We don't have like, I don't have a codependent relationship on, you know, with us at all. And that's not necessarily true there,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And so my experience is different. Like, the Lord knows my heart. I will beat the brakes off you on Jesus' steps. So, and I'm still going to say, you know,
Right.
say
And
my
dust my boots
grace.
off and walk away.
Hello? Like that does not, to me, that's not how, to me, that's not how God works.
Mm-hmm.
So, but when you have those pressures or an image to uphold, which is also a lot of
Yeah.
parents'
Yeah.
problems,
Yeah.
right? We see that a lot with goth kids too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, parents like, oh my God, I don't, they won't ever come out of the room. They're worshiping the devil. No, they just like to wear black and be dark and mysterious. Like,
Yeah.
what's wrong with y'all? Like, get over yourself. Like, so what?
Mm-hmm.
They want to dress like that. Cool. And guess what? Even if it is a phase, okay,
Yeah. Let them do what they do.
kids go through phases all the time. My son would never not watch The Backyardigans. And when I say he watched that, I'm talking about he watched that shit every day.
He
Sun
sound like me
up
with Rugrats.
to,
I'm gonna watch Rugrats to the daylight.
oh,
Yeah, nah,
girl.
I
And
don't
now
care.
he don't ever watch it. But you know what he watches now? Vampire Diaries.
Uh-huh.
The originals. And I just be like, please, Mom, just come watch one episode. Absolutely not. I don't want to watch that.
Right.
You know, but back then I had to watch it. Yeah, okay. If kids go through a phase, what you so worried about then?
Yeah, they should
Because you
phase
know
out of
it's
it.
not a phase. It's not a phase, and you know it.
That's where the issue comes from.
You know
That's
it's
where,
not a phase.
then once you sit in that truth of, oh, it's not a phase, then that's a lot of stuff that you got to face for yourself that I don't think people are ready to face. So they just keep saying it's a phase to appease and kind of decrease what it is that they are experiencing. Trying to not, I think it delays the reality. We always do things to delay the reality.
I
So we don't
saw,
got
I
to deal
can't
with
remember, I can't think of their name. But they were, there's this trans person or non-binary person, gender non-conforming person that does a lot of speaking engagements about their experience. They're a Middle Eastern person. And they talk a lot about how the freedom of queer people scares people. Right? Like, you would go out like that?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. Oh, wait, you would like that freedom. In that freedom, there is bravery. And a lot
Yeah.
of us lack it, right?
Yeah.
We see, like, we talk about bullying, right? What are bullies usually doing? They're usually trying to stop you from shining. That's usually it.
Yeah.
Right? Something about you makes their ass itch.
Mm-hmm.
So they got to figure it out. Like, you know, they keep poking you, right? And you still just like, doing whatever until they break you.
Yeah.
Right. And for kids like my son, who has like an amazing community, like, you can't break him. So now what? Now there's violence.
Yeah.
Step.
Mm-hmm.
And as much as I fear him going out to the world, I personally have feared people closer to him. So, because that's where that stuff happens. That level of emotion about who you are to bring you to a level of violence like that is visceral.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the closer and closer you get to really harming someone. And I think not having control, you can't control your kids really as much as like you
think
want to. You can
Or you
give
try
them
to
as much
scare them into.
guidance. You can model behaviors. You can build rapport and relationship, right? Someone that I'm in good relationship with, I'm going to listen to at least once in a while, right? I'm a rebellious person at heart, but if certain person says something to me, I'm gonna be like, let me sit on that for a minute.
Yeah.
Right.
That's the respect.
Yeah. Like even my son, like it'll be like I said, we go head to head about all kinds of stupid shit. It'll be like the dog, the dishes, the like whatever, right? And what am I trying to say? I'm trying not to get super dark because it's just like, you know, it's hard for me to feel empathy for or sympathy for parents or adults that are around LGBTQ plus kids and want them to change, especially Black and brown people with all of our intersections to oppression. And you don't understand that.
Yeah.
I can't understand how you don't understand what you're doing is oppressive to your kid. I can't understand how you don't understand that someone talking to you a certain way, treating you a certain way because of how you look.
Exactly. It's the same thing.
It is the literal same thing. And it's worse because it's coming from you.
From the person that created them. The person that they want love from the most.
And the person that
most.
they look at.
Yeah.
To like for guidance and safety and care. The power imbalance. That's where the power imbalance happens. Right? That's where the abuse happens. Is like the imbalance of power, or the abuse of power, I should say. That's, you know, you bring the hammer down on something, you think it's gonna change. Like I in all my years, I think the most heartbreaking is to see a child personally not want to speak to their own parent.
Yeah.
At a young age and like be very adamant about it. And that's not something that I did. But it is the consequences that other people have to live with. And I'm about protecting and doing no harm. And if doing no harm means I also have to hold that boundary, that's just what it is. And I don't feel no way about it. And that goes for any parent around me. That's not just my own kid. That's for all my god babies and my nieces that I helped raise.
Part of their community. Yeah.
That's just what it is. Like, I don't feel sorry for people that have kids. I don't, because you have too many people, especially if you got me around, you got too many avenues to information because it's not easy.
Yeah.
Right? It's not. I don't care if you're broke or rich or whatever. It's hard. This is an adjustment to our lives every day. Like all these fairy tales about family and marriage, they never talk about how hard this shit is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
It's just
and there's great moments.
The picture and the dream.
Right. There's these great moments, but there's also these moments that test us and put us, like, even if it's not, the call's not coming from inside the house. Sometimes it's a call from the school that there's an active shooter on campus. Like, I'll never forget how that made me feel, ever. And I was here, you know, everybody's at work and shit. So nobody could really get here as quick as I needed them to. I'm like, I'm on the phone. He called me. I could hear it in his voice. I literally stood up. I had like a house dress on. Stood up. He's talking to me. I'm like, okay. I'm trying to keep him calm. I get to the door, close the door. I left the dog out. I didn't hop in my car. I barely grabbed my, like that to me is a space that I never want to be in. Yeah. But there's this, it's either an old folks saying or a church saying, the world is filled with troubles. Why would I go find it? Yeah. I'm gonna make it an issue in my own house. I'm gonna not have peace in my own house. I'm gonna not, like, my house is, by my standards right now, kind of a mess, but it's just like disheveled. So am I gonna go on a rampage right now about it? No, because 8:00 at night, who wants to deal with that shit? And I for sure don't want to clean up right now. So I'm about to go on about my business, because that's just the truth. Like, we're just trying to hold our kids up to these standards that we can't even meet.
Exactly. They're unrealistic.
Now, they can have chores. You got to follow through because that's your responsibility here. That's the price of toll. But that does not mean that I get to beat you half to death because you left the sock out.
You didn't. Yeah, that's real. Yeah, we need,
right?
listen, I'm on here like already ideas. I'm like,
Girl.
okay, more conversations that need to be had
Yeah.
because it's
Because it's the day to
important.
day. Like, I wish I could say that it was just like the specific LGBTQ plus kid thing. It's not. We make it that.
Hmm.
We make it that.
Yeah.
Literally, like, we make it an issue. We make it like we just can't see past it. Well, that's because all that gay shit. And it's like, it's not all that gay shit. This is teenagers. This
Yeah.
is what teenagers do. Weren't you a
Yeah.
teenager? You know, like, weren't you smoking weed too? Weren't you
Hmm.
skipping school too? Weren't you eating candies by the boatload too? Like, that's what they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And we be so mad. And it's like, nah, for what? For
Yeah.
what? And we are, with our grown selves, be making the dumbest mistakes.
Right. Got a lot of things that people need to focus on for themselves and growing within
Right.
themselves. And half the time your child can teach you a thing or two about how to operate.
But it takes a power away from you.
Yeah, and people don't like that. Some people thrive in that way. Some people want that. Like to be able to
Yeah.
have that power because maybe they feel powerless in other
But
areas. I don't really know.
keep backing a cat into a corner long enough.
Hmm.
See, now your kids don't stay kids forever. Keep backing a kid up into a corner. Go ahead, keep doing that.
Yeah.
And they're gonna raise up on you. Like,
Yeah.
these kids are not playing with us. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? So you better be ready to get to it if that's the type of time you on. But like, who wants that?
Yeah. Who has the time and who has the energy? And it goes back to your thing of what you said of like, we have choice in creating the type of family unit, the type of environment, which is so powerful. And I think that people easily overlook it because we're so stuck in the day-to-day thing. Each and every day that you create a family, you build a family, you have a home, you have your own space, whatever the case may be, you have decision every day to create how you want things to be. So choose wisely because it can literally make or break lives out here. That's exactly what is happening.
Yeah. And it's one thing at a time. You can't do everything. You can't care about everything all at once. You can't care about everybody's issues. You can't care about, you know, I like listen to my son's high school mess, right? And I'll just be like, all right, tell me what happened. Okay. Right? Like, because I know it's high school mess, right? But that doesn't invalidate how someone might feel in that moment. I remember how life or death everything was in high school, right?
Your whole world, the end
it was
of
your
the
whole
world. How will
world.
I go on?
Right? And then to even invalidate, like, take the gay kid off of it, to invalidate that experience. What does that do for you? What does that do for you? It makes you feel good to like shit on someone else's feelings, even if you don't necessarily like relate or you can see it. Because sometimes your kids just want you to listen. You can't always solve their damn problems either. What you want me to do? Go up to school and beat the kids up? Like, I'm gonna be fighting every week. That's how much these kids get it. Somebody that looked at somebody wrong, or somebody that took, and then add Instagram and this person like
wild.
this and they like that. Like, I'm like, all right, like, just go say it to their face. Like, I don't know what to tell you, you know? Because I grew up where it was like either it's these hands or not. Like, it's not like we not thought to do all this back and forth, you know. But that was a different time. That was a harder time too. They don't know that. These kids don't know that. They don't know nothing about that. Right. And the kids that do, we know who they are. So it's just like, you know, these experiences are not more or less. Like, even the idea that there's, you know, it's the gay agenda. If there's a gay agenda, then there has to be a straight one, because all these kids have ever seen is straight relationships on TV, and it's not made them straight. It hasn't. It has not. So I don't care what y'all talking about. Like, so I think if I had to say anything, I would say get around some folks that are in this space too. Put your kid, if you are not able to give your child the life that they need, or the or understand their gender expression, or you know, all these things, there's so many community efforts for kids. Get out of their way. Move around.
Let that be the highlight. Get out of their way.
Get out of their way. Go send them to somewhere where they can be, where they do identify with people that
and try and learn. Push yourself to learn and be open to learning. You ain't gonna be perfect.
No, and don't center yourself. Don't put it on your kids to teach you. They don't have to teach you anything. You just need to listen. You need to be paying attention. You can ask questions. You should be approaching it in curiosity. Preface it with like, I'm learning. I want to do better. Like, that's what you need to tell yourself in the morning.
Yeah.
But coming to them and calling them, you know, the F word, or using, like, especially Black boys, we hear sissy a lot, or we hear dyke, or we hear like, why are you even saying that to a kid anyway? Like, I wouldn't say that to an adult as a grown person. I would never say that. So like, just little things like that. Like, our language itself is so insidious. A lot of the things
are, words have power.
Yes. And so what we do with how we say or how we're acting, like sometimes our body language lets people know that we're uncomfortable and someone can't come to us. So if you can't do it, get out the way.
Yeah.
There's so many programs. Like, truly, if I wasn't doing this nonprofit and trying to work and all, like, I would literally put together something or be partner with somebody somewhere for these kids to just express themselves and get what they need from each other and find community in these LGBTQ plus spaces, because they need it. Just like we need Black spaces, just like Black women need spaces, like Black men need spaces. Like, we need these spaces so we can feel safe. And a lot of times these spaces are integrated, and we see it a lot with kids with Black women, because that's a safe space. Not that that's bad, but they also need to see other people that have their experience.
Yeah.
Right. So they can come up with their own identities in or outside of whatever box they choose. Because that's also a problem where, well, I don't fit into this box, so maybe I'm not this. Like, my son identifies as gay. He does not identify as trans, but he dresses gender fluidly and more feminine. So what is that?
Yeah.
He's a boy. I don't know what to tell you. Well, he dresses like a girl. Okay, but he's still a boy. So like,
yeah.
What don't you get? Well, how are we supposed to remember? I don't know. Ask.
Yeah. It's a fluid experience for a reason. It's just like when, honestly, just like as a metaphor, it kind of has me thinking of the autism spectrum. And I'm not comparing experiences, but just the idea of like every single child is different. It's not like every child presents the same way.
And how they start is not how they end.
Yeah, it's very different. And then so looking at it as the same way, just as people in general, every single person is different. And then so how they start may not be how they end, and things change in between. And being open and flexible to just that perspective. And I've really just appreciated everything. Like, I'm so hyped about this episode. Like it's so much.
Don't give me a mic, honey. I will talk all day.
I love it. It's so much that you shared, and I really hope that there's healing in it for people, that it definitely opens minds a little bit more, or challenges and pushes. That's literally what this platform is for, to have the hard conversations that I feel like people are afraid to have within their families, within their friendships, within their communities, like whatever it may be, and pushing the bar just a little bit, because the conversations that need to be had in order for there to be real growth, they're going to be uncomfortable. They're not always fun. They're not always pretty. And it takes people being willing to be authentic and showing up as their full selves in the conversation in order for things to really change. So I feel like this is a great example of that. And I definitely appreciate you for being so open, honest, and transparent on this platform, and being willing to just share a beautiful story. And I definitely just want to highlight one thing as an overall theme of this episode. And that is that, if y'all notice, yes, the episode is called Raising an LGBTQ plus child. Yes, there are questions woven in there about her son being gay, or her son dressing feminine, and what the experience has been like. But one thing that Andrea did beautifully is just told you point blank period of ways to grow and challenge yourself as a parent, and even in a more beautiful way, how to just raise your child. A lot of it was just how to raise your child. That being a piece of it, and not letting that be the whole bowl and everything and things centering that. So if there's anything that somebody takes away from it, I definitely hope that is that. So I appreciate you so much.
Of course.
Like,
I know we went way over. I know you got that baby.
But it was needed. It was so needed. And that's why I was like, no, I need to let you get it, because you were dropping gems that I was like, see, this is the thing that I needed to be said when it needed to be said. So I knew what I was doing here. So I appreciate you so very much. I even have more ideas for more episodes of things you brought up where I'm like, this needs to be talked about. Can you please tell people where they can connect with you with the different things you do, like,
Yeah.
because sis got it going, so she can help you.
So you can find me everywhere, Drea Miss Lady, MISSLADY. But business wise, or like stuff that I'm doing, so I recently launched my nonprofit with my co-founder Clarice Woods. It's called Birth Ruckus. We are providing full spectrum doula support to pregnant Black and Brown folks. And we're also providing doulas with mentorship throughout that program. So it's two-pronged approach. Right now it's free, so we're raising money. We are not going to get paid from this cohort at all, me and my co-founder, but we're trying to make sure our doulas get paid. And that our, besides our doulas getting paid, though, that our families have their essentials when they go into this new space. And so we're doing a 10-week course. We're calling it sessions, because for 10 weeks we're all meeting, we're learning something new. The folks leave and have a doula, they have a backup doula, they have a doula community that can tap into. My doulas have a community that they can tap into. And I'm just giving this knowledge away to the community so that we can keep a reach, because I'm not booked up till the end of the year for no reason. It's not because I'm special or any of that. It really is because this work is needed. I still am a DI educator and consultant, so I still do a lot of that work. So if you need anyone to even come in birth spaces and talk about decolonizing how we approach birth work, because there's a lot of work to be done there. I do a lot of advocacy work there. And that's Birth Ruckus, and then my organization Nurture and Flow, which is just straight up doula work or classes or prenatal yoga and just all things birth work. Nurture and Flow, that's where you can find me.
Yes, so check her out, reach out to her if anything that she is offering is what you need in your life. Doing such amazing work, and if it's not something you need, I'm sure your friend needs it or somebody needed in your family.
Somebody
let them know. Yes, let them know. So like I said, I thank you so very much for being on the platform. I hope that we continue to be able to collaborate. I've been on Andrea's platform before. I know y'all kept hearing her say name Clarice. Clarice does have an episode in season 1 on the topic of marriage. So if you didn't see that, please go back and you'll definitely see why they've been friends, because they vibe on the same link. So on the same wave. So definitely thank you so much. I hope that y'all enjoyed this episode. Until next time, always look lovely.